everyone ready to watch the Monster Mash show at Warwick's Haunted Castle? Well, not so fast. Let's just take care of a few logistics before we start messing with some monsters. So if you have any questions for the presenters, you can submit them through the Q&A box in the lower section of the Zoom window. We're going to have a Q&A at the end of the show, so please feel free to send your questions and we'll try and answer as many as possible at the end of the session. You're also going to be able to vote up your favorite questions by giving them a thumbs up, and that way we can ask your best questions first. So some of you have already worked out, this is a Zoom webinar and your camera will not be on, but we definitely encourage you to use the chat to send in your comments. If you have any technical difficulties, you can use the chat to send a message just to all panelists, and that way we can help you out as soon as possible. If you have any trouble with audio, often leaving and then rejoining again is an easy fix. And then this presentation will be recorded and we're going to be sending it to our registrants in the coming weeks. So without any further ado, let's get spooky with our wizard friend, Bulbous Dumblefloor.
Hello, folks. Hello. I am Bulbous Dumblefloor and I'm the resident wizard here at Warwick, the Haunted Castle. Now, we've been having a fantastic time this Halloween. We wanted to share some of our experiences with you. So now that you're all with us, I would very much like to introduce you to what we call the Monster Mess.
Listen up, you lot. You could learn something here. It's time for some scary science with the Monster Mess. Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, witches and warlocks, ghosts and ghouls, and that man over there. I am Professor Ringley. I am Dr. Worm. Yes. And today we are here to share with you our greatest ever scientific achievement. Today, our work has led us to the most incredible inventions ever attempted. Today, we are going to be bringing a dead man back to life. Yes. The man who has been dead for a little over a week will be brought back to do life before your very eyes. Yes. Now, why are we doing it here at Warwick Castle, I hear you ask? Well, because Warwick Castle has the required electrical power to power my machine and resurrect our creature. Yes. In the year 1898, the Earl and Countess of Warwick converted the mill house into a massive generator, supplying it with new electric lights. It all sounds very impressive, but it was only ever used to impress people at parties. Yes. It was only ever used for boring things, and we are the first people here today to use it for science. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. So, the Earl and Countess have allowed us to use their electricity. We shall resurrect our creature. They will only allow us to stay there if, yes, we entertain their guests with some interesting science. Can I get a woo? I said interesting and incredible science. Can I get an even bigger woo? Wonderful. Yes, so, well, should we get started? Yes, let's go. I'm going to start things off fairly simply with a big bin. Right. Yes, a big bin. You see, I've cut a hole in the bottom of it, and I've added some plastic to the top. Right. Bit of an odd thing to do, isn't it? Well, you see, I am modelling our creature's lungs. Right. Yes, the lungs. So you see, this part here is the lung, and this part here is the diaphragm. When you breathe in, your diaphragm contracts and draws the breath into the lungs. Now, when the diaphragm relaxes, it pushes the air back out again. Now, one thing the diaphragm can do is spasm, and that causes a hiccup. Yes, a hiccup. So, what we're going to do is show you what a hiccup does to this machine. Are you ready, boys and girls? Yes, I know you are. So, Dr. Worm, will you pop that little plastic cup on your hand and stand over here? Here it goes. Wonderful. Are we ready? Whoa! Did you see that? You see, what's happening is that as I pull back on the diaphragm, air is pulled into the lung, and as I release, it is fired out at a high speed, causing the plastic cup to topple over once more. Amazing! Now, shall we make this even more interesting? I think we shall. You see, what I shall do right now is fill this up with smoke. And what will happen when I fill it up with smoke is I shall fire it across the courtyard, and you will all see right now what happens. Wow. Are we ready? Let's see this. See, what is happening is it's firing out balls of smoke. And when it amazing. So yes, as you can see, I have created the world's biggest and bestest smoke rings. Thank you. Now, should we move on to experiment number 2? Yes. Wonderful. So what I'm going to need you to do now is pour the jug from jug A into jug B. Now, Dr. Worm, do you trust me? Of course you do, because I am a trusted scientist and nobody has called me a lunatic. No, not once. Right. So, what we're going to do, as you can see, it's just plain water pouring from one jug into the other. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, Dr. Worm. Yes. What would you do if I told you that there was a vortex at the bottom of the jug, and as you flipped it over your head, the water would disappear and you would not get wet? Just going to ask a quick question. Have you done this before? Yes. Right. Sort of. Okay. Once. Maybe. Right. Anyway, carrying on. What we're going to do is you're going to pour that water into that jug there. Yes. Excellent. And then in a few seconds, you're going to flip it above your head. And you have to do it because it's in your pocket. Right. Yeah, so are we ready? No. I'll do your countdown. Are we ready? No. 3, 2, 1. I just wanted to say, I am a little bit nervous. So I feel like I need a bit of encouragement. Oh, I'll give you some encouragement. Yes. Go, Dr. Worm. Go, Dr. Worm. Everybody, go, Dr. Worm. Right. Go, Dr. Worm. Not really feeling it, if I'm quite honest with you. Do it one more time. Fine, one more time. All together now. Go, Dr. Worm. Yeah. Go, Dr. Worm. Thank you. Go, Dr. Worm. Are we ready? Yeah, I think I'm encouraged. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Woo! Amazing! What happened? Where did the water go? You see, the water is still there. It has just been absorbed by a substance called sodium polyacrylate. Yes, sodium polyacrylate is a substance that absorbs over 100 times its mass in water. Yes, isn't that amazing? So you see, the water is actually still there. This has just been absorbed. Right. Should we tip it out and show everybody what's inside there? Here we go. There we go. Give it a big tap. There we are. You see, goo and crystals. Lovely, lovely, isn't it? Lovely. Yes. Now I think we should do one more experiment before the Erling Countess will allow us to use their electricity. Yes, this next experiment is a messy one, but is one of our favourites. Yes, here I have a beaker with a bit of hydrogen peroxide, and here I have some washing up liquid. Now, hydrogen peroxide is often used to clean cups, and fairy liquid is used when you're washing your dishes, hopefully making our experiment as bright and foamy as possible. Yes. You see, in there is sodium peroxide, and the fairy liquid by themselves are fairly unreactive. Now, what we need to make a reaction happen is sodium. For you see, hydrogen peroxide is water, H2O, with an extra oxygen molecule, H2O2. And you see, as we add the sodium to the hydrogen peroxide, it releases that extra oxygen molecule into the air. Yes, but if we were to mix hydrogen peroxide and sodium together, it would happen in a fairly unremarkable way, making our experiment very, very boring. Now, if we were to add the washing up liquid, the extra oxygen molecule is broken free and the washing up liquid will trap it, hopefully causing the reaction that you will see right now. Wonderful. So we just mix up the fairy liquid first and then we shall add in the sodium after, so you can all see the wonderful reaction. Are we ready, Dr. Worm? I think we're ready. I think so. Right, let's get my sodium. Wonderful. Lovely. Right, let's all do a countdown. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. Incredible! Look at that! So much foam! Lovely. You looked a bit terrified there. I was very scared. So, well, that's the last experiment. That means I can finally resurrect my creature. We've been looking forward to this moment our entire lives. Following in the footsteps of some incredible scientists. Luigi Galvani, who in 1780 began to experiment with what he called animal electricity. He used electric shocks to be sent to dead frogs. He also did this to a dead man. The audience watched with uneasy anticipation as shocks were delivered to the dead man. Spectators reported his jaw quiver before his face contorted. People actually thought he was on the eve of being restored back to life. Wonderful, yes. And we today are going to achieve what no science
Would you mind keeping it down? All that electricity's giving me a bit of an headache.
Oh, my creature, it's okay, look. You can talk. You can talk.
I can? Oh, I can. Oh, that's lovely, that, isn't it? Hippopotamus. Teapot. Bottom. It's
You're
lovely,
supposed to
this
be able
talking.
to talk. You're supposed to be a terrifying monster.
What, like a big scary thing?
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think I'm one of those. I might be a monster, but I wouldn't want to frighten anybody.
But our research said you'd be dim and brutish.
Well, that's a bit mean, isn't it?
Oh, well,
No.
sorry to put you in that box. I guess you can be whatever you want to be.
Well, since you let me out of the box, I forgive you. Well, the question is, what do I want to be?
Oh, well, I guess we can help you to think of a few suggestions, but we can't decide for you. So let's have a think. Oh, how about being a scientist?
Oh, well, the science is lovely, yes. I have a bit of a problem with fire.
Oh, well, you're a good chap. You could be a policeman.
What, chasing down criminals and stuff? No, I don't think I'd be a very good figure of authority. Plus, the uniform, blue and green, it wouldn't go.
Okay, well, if you're interested in fashion, how about becoming a tailor and fitting people with fine clothing?
I'm not sure I've got the delicate touch you need to do that. You've got to be very careful when measuring the inside leg.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I can't think of any more suggestions. Is there anything you want to be?
Well, I've got one idea, but I'm not sure if you'd approve.
No, you can be whatever you want to be.
Oh, well, I thought, I might like to be an entertainer, singing and dancing and everything.
Incredible, yes, but one question. Well, are you any good?
Oh, well, there's only one way to find out, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, so there is. Hello.
Start this.
Oh, I love a little bit of a bougie.
They were working in the lab late one night when their eyes beheld an eerie sight. The monster on the slab began to rise, and suddenly, to their surprise, it is a monster man.
The monster mash.
He was a graveyard smash.
We did the mash.
It got on in the plan.
We did the mash.
We did the monster mash.
In my
laboratory in the classroom.
Well, thank you very much, Warwick Castle. Well, see you all
They did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It got on.
Now, whilst we clear up that mess, it's time for you to go and enjoy everything else that's on at the castle. Please.
Well, there we are. That was the monster mess. I do hope you enjoyed it. Bit of a silly science show there with those pesky scientists trying to resurrect the dead. So we're just going to take a little bit of a stroll further around the castle here so you can see what it looks like here at Halloween. You see, of course, the place is littered with skulls and pumpkins and all of these glorious lights that we can see behind us. And we're going to take a little bit of a stroll over this way towards what we call the Conqueror's Fortress, the oldest part of the castle. This is where the very first part of the castle was built many, many years ago. The first ever fort was built on this very mound. So we'll have a stroll down here and then we can have a little bit of a question and answer session. I do hope you enjoyed the performance. I do hope you didn't think that that zombie was too scary.
Thank you very, very much, Wizard Bulbous Tumblefloor. Am I saying that correctly?
Oh, absolutely correctly. You're the most correct it's been for days, I'll be honest. People always confuse me with that other, rather more famous wizard. Yes, the one who's in literature. But yes, it is Bulbous Tumblefloor, and I am the resident wizard here at Warwick Castle.
Ah, I see. Interesting that you should bring up that other famous wizard. One of our audience members would like to know if the wizard, if you, our wizard, are related to Professor Dumbledore by chance.
It is a common mistake because the names do sound similar, but no, unfortunately, in our genealogy, there is absolutely no link. Just a utter coincidence that we sound the same. And I have it on good authority. He is quite a lot younger than I am, to be honest.
All right, then. Another question for you, Bulbous Tumblefloor, is can you tell us a little bit more about the history of the Warwick Castle, of Warwick's Castle, for those of us who are not from the UK?
Oh, absolutely. You see, the castle here was built over hundreds of years by many, many different people. And that's why we thought we'd come down towards this, the Conqueror's Fortress that you can see lit up in red. Now, many, many years ago, the very first fortress was built here by Ethelfleda. Now, many of you may know Ethelfleda. She was the daughter of King Alfred. Okay, and that was right around the turn of the year 1000. And she built the very first fort here, a wooden fort, okay, a modest thing, rather like an impressive shed, if I'll be honest with you. But she built the first fort here to defend this part of England, which back then was known as Mercia. Now, she was Queen of Mercia, and she defended this castle from the Vikings. She built the very first fortress. And then later, it was fortified by someone who you may recognize the name of, William the Conqueror. So in 1068, William the Conqueror then built the first stone fortress on that very mound there. And over the years, the castle slowly expanded and slowly developed. So what we see here is part of Conqueror's Fortress. And then if we just spin you back around briefly this way, we then see the fantastic curtain wall. And just in the distance there, we see the fabulous Guy's Tower. Now that was commissioned by Sir Thomas de Beauchamp. Now, Sir Thomas de Beauchamp, he was the Earl of Warwick, the 11th Earl of Warwick. And he earned a lot of money by fighting, always away, fighting in France. And he brought all the riches that he got back from those fights. And he arranged to have Guy's Tower, the very tall one, and in the following corner, Caesar's Tower built. And then as the Earls took over, the castle began to be this magnificent fine house that you see behind us here. Slowly, everyone added their own stamp, their own taste, their own little bit of architecture. And now the castle is as we see it today. Now, unfortunately, there was some times where the castle was left to run down. And at the time of Sir Fulk Greville back in 1604, he was given this castle by the king, but it was an absolute ruin. So Sir Fulk Greville spent a lot of his own money building the castle back up. And unfortunately, he died before it was ever completed. So he never saw it looking as fine as it is today. But here we are, we've survived many things, we've survived battles, the castle has never been penetrated, never given up its defenses. And now even surviving a great fire which happened in the Great Hall many years ago. And here we are, rebuilt, refurbished, and welcoming all these fantastic people here for our Halloween event.
What an impressive history, and with so many impressive and famous names to have gone through this castle, is it perhaps haunted by any of them?
Well, now you see, there are supposed to be some ghosts here, and many of the staff who work at the castle do claim that they have actually seen some ghosts. You see, we have a lot of staff here who work at night, and that's our security staff and our concierge service, and they all claim to have seen something or felt something, the presence of something. And it is said that we have several ghosts. We have the ghost of a grey lady, which some people have seen. There's a ghost of a little girl dressed in white. And just outside the castle walls, around this time of year, a whole ghost army, known as the Ghost Army of Edge Hill, is said to rise and walk back towards the castle. And then there's also apparently a ghost of a monkey, which no one's ever actually seen yet. And then Sir Fulk Greville himself, who I just mentioned. Sir Fulk Greville is seen to haunt this castle. It is said that his portrait in the red drawing room inside the castle, if you knock on the wall next to his portrait 3 times, it is said that you can hear him knocking back.
Spooky indeed. So does anyone still live in the castle? Is there a current Earl of the castle?
Now, no one lives here, but there is still a current Earl of Warwick. The title still exists, and unfortunately, he lives abroad somewhere. So he's not actually here to see what we do with the castle, which is a real shame. But the title still exists, so there is still an Earl of Warwick. But now it is inhabited, to be honest, by us. Like myself, the resident wizard, I get to stay here every now and then when the Earl lets me. But of course, we have a fantastic team of staff who are here every day, making sure that the castle operates, making sure that everything's spick and span, and making sure that we're always ready to welcome our guests in the best way possible.
And Professor Bulbous Tumblefloor, can you tell us, how do you spend your days at the castle?
Every day is different. Absolutely every day. So I can be brewing potions one day, casting magic spells the next. Sometimes I get to do a little bit of reading, so practice my own magic. And then recently, now that we're here with the Haunted Castle for Halloween, I've been teaching all these fantastic new young wizards and witches some of my spells and potions. So every day throughout the Halloween, I'm there 3 or 4 times a day running my own wizard school, which is arguably better than some of your more famous wizard schools, if you know what I mean.
I'm sure that's true. Tell me, Professor Bulbous Tumblefloor, can you tell us a little bit about our mad scientist colleagues? One of our audience members would like to know if there is a chemical element or compound that melts bones.
Now, the only thing that I'm aware of that melts bones, you see, these scientists, they do talk and they do let me on. And apparently the one thing that does melt the bones, they've said, is a certain type of acid. Now, I don't know if you know how bad acid can be, but that's the kind of thing that you do not want to mess with unless you are fully, safely prepped and gloved and goggled. But apparently that will melt through a bone. Now, luckily, that poor zombie creature didn't have any of that thrown on him, because he might have lost a limb, and that'd be terrible. Dear blimey, not today. So apparently that's one of the things that will melt through a bone.
Absolutely terrible. Now, I assume that you've had many discussions with our revived monster on stage. So one of our audience members would like to know if you've ever spoken to him about how it felt to be dead.
Well, as you saw, he's just been resurrected in front of us. So I am actually quite desperate to catch up with him, because I have a few spells and potions myself that I would hope would actually bring someone back from the dead. So what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to invite him to come and join me for a nice cup of warm mead, and we can sit down and have a little chat about how he feels coming back to life. But as you know, apparently he already wants to be an entertainer, and isn't that fantastic? Straight out of a coffin, straight on stage. Amazing stuff. So yes, I will desperately be seeking him out for a conversation about how that felt.
Sounds like an excellent idea. A more practical question for you now. How many kilometers is Warwick Castle from London?
Kilometers? I know not what you speak of with kilometers. This is the thing, because I'm not aware of this measurement system. For me, we just work in miles and yards and things. Now, let me see. I usually measure my distance from here to London by how many days it takes me to travel by horse or by cart. And I think the last time it took me 3.5 days with 3 nights sleeping on the way, because it's actually quite a journey by horse and cart, I can tell you that. Now, in terms of miles, I think that's around just under 100 or around 100 of your miles. So kilometers, if I can scratch my head a little and see if I can get this about right, and someone might need to correct me, I think the conversion would be, is that around 135 kilometers, maybe? I'd need to have that fact checked. Like I say, I don't follow this new metric system.
We'll have to take your word for it. I think a last question before we leave you to go and have a good conversation with our revived man. How many prisoners are there currently in the dungeon? And if there aren't any, when were there last any prisoners?
Well, you see, now the interesting thing here is that actually at the castle, the prison system was actually quite nice, which seems a little strange because the Earls of Warwick, if they did ever take anyone prisoner, they would actually be put into this tower behind me in the corner, Caesar's Tower. See, underneath Caesar's Tower, there is the jail, which is downstairs. And that's a frightful place. And it's a damp, dark hole. And that's where all the muck and the stuff that would be thrown out of all the other rooms would wash down there and out of the castle. So if you were just a mere peasant that had been imprisoned by the Earl, you would be right down in the bottom there. Now, however, if the Earl had taken prisoner someone of a higher status, which, let's face it, did happen back then, they would be placed into the tower, but in order of their rank in society. So if someone like a duke was captured by the Earl, then they would actually get the nice room at the top of the tower. Because the prison wasn't actually about torturing people. It was usually to get some kind of political gain. So they would be put into that room up there, and then the Earl would demand money from their families or from their political friends and colleagues to actually then release them. So in order to release them properly, they were actually kept pretty well. So that's where our prisoners were kept. And thankful to say, there are none in there at the moment.
Very, very good to know. Well, thank you very, very much, Professor Bulbous Tumblefloor, for taking us around the castle. And please let our scientists know that we thoroughly enjoyed their show and that we are very happy that our revived man is back to life.
Oh, it has been an absolute pleasure, and I do hope that you've all enjoyed it. It's been fantastic speaking to you, and I'm glad that we could bring some of what we do here at the Haunted Castle to you to enjoy elsewhere.
Thank you very much. To all of our audience members, we're going to be hopping over to Dracula's castle in the next half hour or so, and we hope to see you all there as well. Bye-bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye.